Okay, so this is the Kink Gap BMX bike. The Kink Gap BMX bike is I'd say a mid-level quality bike. It's pretty decent, although there's some room for improvement there. But this is the 2025 version. All right, so we're going to be taking a look at it, see if it's a good bike for you or if you should buy something else. But essentially, this bike is $439, right under the $500 price point. It comes in some different colors, but first, look at this midnight black. This looks sick. I like the black and copper. Like, good job, Kink. That looks really good. It also comes in a terrazzo white, which looks like last year's Kink Switch model. Looks a lot like the previous Kink Switch, except for the seat. All right. So $439, two color options. This bike has a 20.5-inch top tube, which is best for riders who are between 5'6" and 5'9". All right. So if this is our frame here, this is the top tube right here, and it is a 20.5-inch top tube, meaning how far your feet go right here and your hands go right here on the bars. How far is that stretch? How far are you bent over trying to hold on to it and ride it? Best for 5'6" to 5'9". If you're in between that height range, this is a good bike for you, okay, because of those sizes. Now we also have some other geometries here. We have a 13.25-inch chainstay length. We have a 75-degree head tube angle, 32mm fork offset, and a 9-degree standover height. All of this geometry, so this is where the chainstay length is. This is the standover height. Head tube angle is right here. And essentially all of these things mean how responsive the bike is. How is it going to feel when you drop into a bowl at the skate park? How quickly is it gonna turn when you start to turn? This bike is a pretty mellow bike. I would say it's right here on the responsive to mellow scale. Say right there. Pretty mellow bike, mostly because of that 13.25-inch chainstay, the 9-inch standover height, and the average 75-degree head tube angle. It's going to feel pretty stable, pretty controlled for you. All right, I would recommend riding pump tracks, flowing around at the skate park, maybe some small dirt jumps on this bike, but it's not a park machine by no means. All right. Now let's look at the quality. We can look at some of the other pictures on this bike, but this is pretty average Kink bike, okay? Hate those tires, but carry on. It's got a full chromoly head tube, top tube, and down tube. Now, don't let Kink fool you here, because I think at one point they were trying to. Looks like they've got a little bit more clear on their messaging, but it is a tri-moly frame. It's not a full chromoly frame. You're going to see full chromoly frames a little bit later, but this is tri-moly. Tri-moly, okay? I'll explain what that means in a second. It's got 50% chromoly forks, full chromoly handlebars, and we have chromoly cranks, Mission single wall rims, a sealed hub, and an unsealed front hub. Okay, sealed rear hub, unsealed front hub. So back to our frame drawing here. Let me show you what tri-moly means. Tri-moly means that this, and this is chromoly. Okay, and if you remember, high tensile steel is way over here, chromoly is way over here. All right, and then we got some chromoly, and we got aftermarket chromoly. All right, and so these are kind of the four categories. It goes from worst all the way to best. And this frame sits about right here, some chromoly, okay, because this back end right here is high tensile steel. And what happens with high tensile steel, it's 1020 metal, while chromoly is 4130. So if you look at just numbers there, this is about 4 times stronger than 1020, right? Because 41, 10, right? Just math, because math. I don't think it's actually 4 times, but it is quite a bit stronger. And high tensile steel bends, chromoly cracks, because math, okay? But anyway, what happens here with this high tensile steel back end is when you're doing spins and stuff, is it bends whichever way you're spinning. The chromoly here keeps the main part of the frame stronger and keeps it all together, but this part just does some bending and it's not very good. All right, when we look back at the handlebars, we've got chromoly handlebars. We have some chromoly in the forks, unfortunately, and then frame there, forks, bars, cranks, chromoly, that's cool. Single wall rims are not good, especially at this price point. I'd like to see double wall rims, but as we get closer to the $500 bikes, we'll start to see that. This is what a single wall rim is it's just one single wall holding it up. This is where your tire goes, like right here's your tire. This is your spokes, okay? And this is just so weak, like this can bend really easily. On a double wall rim, you're gonna see it a little bit more like this with different chambers. And these different chambers, this is your spoke, this is your tire, oh my gosh. What you're gonna see with this double wall rim is it's just so much stronger. So when you're doing tricks, you've got this high tensile steel back end and this single wall back rim. It can get pretty sketchy, to be honest. It can get just a little bit sketchy. So with that being said, who is this bike for? Oh, look at that. Gross. I need to find a better way to clean this thing. With that being said, who is this bike for? So this is marketed as a mid-level bike and it's over $400. It's getting close to that $500 price point. Typically, I don't recommend the Gap for very many people because it's a mid-level bike. It's a 20.5 inch top tube. If you have the extra money, just spend the money and get the Kink whip, because with the Kink whip, you get full chromoly frame, not tri-moly frame. Right? You get double wall rims. It's a better quality bike for like $60, $70 more. And so typically I don't recommend the Gap for people unless it's the Gap Free Coaster or the Gap XL and you really need a tall bike. But even then, the Kink Whip XL is a better option for just a little bit more. So Kink Gap, you know, there's certain people that I recommend the Curb, I recommend the Launch for. The Gap is just right there in that gray area. If you're totally experienced, just save the money, get the full high tensile steel on the Kink Gap or on the Kink Curb or on the Kink Launch. If you're more experienced and you want to spend the money, just step it up and get the Kink Whip because it's better, okay? So that's kind of my thoughts on the Kink Gap. I'm curious what you think in the comments. If you want me to tell you which bike is right for you, click the link, get a free bike recommendation. I'll find 3 bikes that are perfect for you and I will send it to you. But that's what I think about the Kink Gap.